Sign up now at elevate.miami.edu for my course, Organized Rhyme. At the word legacy, while involving some wordplay, I'll use the first syllable to build upon. We'll use the first syllable, leg. For the second syllable, we'll use an. And for the third syllable, we'll use the word knee. So now we have leg and knee. Can we use it in context with legacy? Let's just see. Wordsworth Productions with a S.com for all merch. I got 2 books available right now. Well, Words Are Worth Volume 1, and I also have a children's book called Socks. Age range from 12 to 15, so it's kind of like the middle school and high school age range, but adults can read it as well. What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of What Words Are Worth. And today I got a guest. It's the reason why I started podcasting. You know, got a great show, great podcast called That's Hip Hop. The That's Hip Hop podcast. They go in there, man, and they break down lyrics, bars. They may even perform your bars on there and really gives like a real good testament to why the culture will remain always important, because you got people such as this guy himself and this crew. They always are able to make sure that when people say hip hop is dead, they'll let you know that it's not dead. You got to search, you got to find, you got to listen. It's out there if you search. And he's a curator of the culture, also does local events and keeps track of what's going on locally, making sure that hip hop is maintained where he's at in his region, and just make sure that hip hop is fine. So when you're sleeping, he got it going on. You know, when you're awake and you're doing stuff with your life, he's taking care of the culture. So you always feel safe about the culture, know it's in good hands. With our guest today, which is also a dope lyricist, producer, and everything else. I got a lot to say about our guest today. Isaiah, what's up, man?
Man, salute words. Thank you for the kind words. And man, it's a really honor. It's an honor to be here today. So man, appreciate you.
Yo, man. Like I said, man, you had me on your podcast several times, and I'm going through the podcast journey in my mind, trying to figure out what's important for me to talk to people about. Being on your show made me realize the reason what you were talking to me about was the same thing I was passionate about knowing from others. So it led to my journey of starting a podcast, and it's been pretty good, man. You know, so I got over 1,000 subs now, and I'm getting up there and all this stuff, and I think it's just gonna keep building and getting better. And then like I've just learned so much. So thank you. I want to thank you, you know, and your crew for sure.
Man, it's cool, man. It's cool to see you do your thing. And I know people probably were like looking to hear some gems, you know, from yourself. So it's cool that now they could go to your platform and be like, oh, okay, cool. And you're doing dope interviews and stuff. And
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
I've been catching it here and there, and I've been really enjoying it. I think what you're doing is also a service for hip hop. And yeah, dude, it's really cool to know like there was some inspiration there, you know.
Not some. I ain't gonna say some. It was all inspiration. We're not gonna say some. I'm not gonna say and let it go like that, man. It was all inspiration, man. So I appreciate you, man. For real, for real. So let's get into what is. Can you explain that That's Hip Hop podcast? I showed like a clip of it, and kind of like, you know, what do y'all do? Why it started? You know, I kind of explained a little bit of what y'all do, but why did y'all start it?
Yeah, so there was 2 friends of mine that I'm really close to. We've been close since high school. We were classmates, and we had history class, and we'd always be like just joking around, and but we were all intelligent dudes, and so we'd always just have this chemistry. Like, you know, it's just every day was hilarious. And we've always kind of rapped, but we never like rapped together. But we would do freestyles, you know, during lunchtime and stuff like that. There was like these big ciphers, and we'd jump in, and or we'd do some battles sometimes. And then we were recording, and once we graduated high school, we still kept as friends, and we would hang out. But anytime we'd go somewhere, we'd do freestyles in the car, like on the way to, or we'd be at a party and we'd be freestyling and like in the back or something. or we'd be on our way to a concert or something. It was always there was always some sort of hip hop undertone to it anytime we did something together. And we all had kind of our own different ventures. One of the guys that was in our trio, his name is Andre, super talented, smart dude. He started a YouTube channel called Lyricology 101. He had over 100K subscribers really quick, very charismatic dude. And he would do breakdowns, like very technical breakdowns. And he started rapping after us. So to
Mhm.
me, I'm like, how did you curve way up? But he was always in improv, he was in comedy, and then he was in producing, and then somebody had challenged him to actually write, and so when he did, he was out of here. So he had a successful channel. Unfortunately, his channel got hacked, and so he lost all those 100K subscribers and had to kind of rebuild everything.
Mm.
But doing that, it's kind of an uphill climb trying to rebuild everything because a lot of things have changed from when he started it. And my other friend, Mark, he was doing his own podcast. He was doing like a wrestling podcast, a very niche podcast. And he was doing his thing for probably like 2 or 3 years before we started. And then I was doing my own podcast called The Deep End, which I was going into like just like phenomenons, world phenomenons, and kind of doing my own investigations and, trying to get to the bottom of things that you always hear rumors of. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the actual facts and can I get far enough to see? And I would take everybody on a journey with me to that.
Yeah.
But eventually, because we were all doing our own projects, I thought about it and I'm like, man, so much work for an individual to do it. It'd be so much easier if we put
And y'all
all
are hanging out still at the same time? Y'all still are hanging
yeah,
out at that
we're
time,
still hanging out at the same time.
but
Yeah.
everybody's doing their own thing. Okay.
Everyone's doing their own thing. And I thought about it, I was like, why don't we if we could all put that in together, like it'd be much easier. It'd probably be better. And then I thought about it and I was like, okay, but if we did do that, what would we do it on? And I was like, we were recently like freestyling, I think. And I was like, it has to be something with that. And so my idea only was just about like hip hop, but I didn't know what exactly. Andre was the one about saying, okay, if we do it, let's do it about lyricism, let's do it about albums, breaking down albums. And then that started refining the idea. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll take it album by album. We'll actually focus on the lyricism. And so that's how it started to narrow down the format and stuff. We at first we started with every track and we were like, oh, that's just too brutal. So we eventually cut it down to 3 tracks. That's how we and so at a bar, I had planted the seed with Mark, and I was like, "Man, wouldn't it be dope if we had, like if there was some sort of, like, hip hop podcast out there talking about lyricism?" Because there's always hip hop podcasts, but they talk about rumors, other
Yeah.
things that aren't about the music, and I was like, "Man, it'd be so dope." So I planted the seed with Mark. And with Andre, I felt like he was gonna be harder to get to because he was already focused on that. And so I texted him, I'm like, "Hey man, I'm just throwing this out there. Would you be down to do a hip hop podcast with us? It would be you, Mark, and myself. We'd focus on the music. Would you be down?" And he texts back, "Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it." And I knew right there, I was like, okay, if we 3 get together, we're gonna do something special. And so that's how it started. Andre later on had some other things where he wasn't able to continue. So luckily, we had another good friend, Ali, very smart dude too, and he knows his stuff. He was like, he moved back to California recently, and he was like, "Yeah, let me hop in." So around episode 50, Ali hops in.
Dope, man. Yeah, I really enjoy the breakdowns. Are so intricate. And then hearing y'all quote the bars and sometimes perform the bars. I remember when y'all did, I think the cipher and Punch hit me back like, yo, these guys actually sang my bars, and he was he hit me back like, yo, it's kind of wild seeing somebody say my rhymes, like and performing it like that. So it's super interesting, man. So it's a great podcast. It's on the screen right now. If you want to check it out, that's THATS.hip-hop. That's on Instagram. So make sure y'all check it out. And then, those are for the people that may be listening and driving. And then for the people watching, you can see where we got going on there. All right. So tell us about the MC aspect of you, right? You have this album out called The R, right?
Yeah.
And I listened to it yesterday, man, and I got a sense of how you rhyme, what you like rapping about. And to me, it actually really represents, it actually is in conjunction to what the podcast is about.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lyricism there, but there's a preservation of rapping, like hip hop rapping, like boom bap style, which is kind of that same era of where I'm from, like that boom bap era,
Yeah.
So it's very reminiscence of that as well, using the R as well. So tell us about the R and why you did this album. You told me some stuff about the beat, like all that.
Yeah.
So expound on that, please.
Yeah, so early 2000s, I got into producing and I was making beats on a program called Reason. As I was
Another
producing these
another
beats,
R, another R.
oh yeah, Reason. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's true. Yeah, so I had a collection of beats. At the time, I felt like these beats were hot at the time. A lot of my friends were really feeling them. I was sitting on them, and then I knew that something was going to come out of it, and so I would be like, okay, yeah, this is going to form my album. I'm gonna make an album because I've already been rapping before this. I used to
Right.
rap with a friend of mine before this, and we did mixtapes and stuff. But I never did my own album or my own project. I always talked about it, but I never sat down and really challenged myself to the pen. I did a track or two, might have been
Yeah.
kind of hot with a friend, but never my own album project that kind of represented who I am in my life. And so a lot of things have had taken place during like the mid 2000s. One of those things was I was I was late night. I was hanging out with some friends. We were on this bridge that's like probably like 2 blocks from my house, and we were it's like a walk bridge, so you could only like walk through there across the freeway. And we were in the kind of in the middle of it, and we were smoking, you know. And at the time, I kind of had some conflicts because my dad's a pastor. I kind of knew I shouldn't be there, but yet I was there. And sure enough, we got approached by somebody who felt that this was their territory. They wanted to prove themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
And so one of them, one of the I'll say thugs, I guess. One of them was at the entrance, kind of blocking the way, kind of like lookout person, or if he had something. They both were like they were postured like if they had a weapon or something.
Yeah.
Two of the other guys came up, pocket checking. The homies that I had there, they didn't have nothing on them, but I'm the one that had like wallet, phone, all this stuff. So when they came to me, they were like, give up what you got, like. And I don't know, I was so dumb at the time. For me, I was like stubborn. I was like, you ain't getting S, you ain't getting from
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like I don't know what type of mentality I was on. Uh, so I
You was
kind of
on the
looked.
hip hop mentality
I
because
guess, yeah, I guess I was like, you're gonna have to kill
yo,
me.
you know how that yeah, hip hop makes us very much machismo. Come
Right,
on.
right. Yeah, I guess that's what it was. And then I looked over the shoulder to try to like scare them, like if somebody was coming. And so they kind of like they turned around and were kind of like walking off. Once they realized nobody was really coming, they turned back around and they kind of like bomb rushed us, like turned us around and then like sucker punched me. So the intro of the album, I read kind of I reenact that scene of me on this bridge hanging out and getting sucker punched. So like
Mm,
3 of my front teeth are implanted teeth that I still have today, reminding me of that incident. This is all in Rialto. This is all where I live.
yeah.
So I was looking like all jacked up, like bad, blood everywhere, all the stuff. And the next day, I made the beginning beat was the next day of that event where I made that beat, and I felt like it was sort of like this redemption, and I
Another
there
R.
was Yeah, another R. And I felt like this was I was gonna channel this energy with not like hate, not anger, nothing. I was just gonna channel it into a project where I knew I was gonna write about kind of a rebirth. Um, and
Another
that's
R.
a rebirth spiritually. It was a rebirth creativity, like being creative again. It was a
Mhm.
rebirth, even of Rialto, because Rialto's a small town, and you can start to see slow developments of it becoming better as a better community. It's more buzzing with workers and more commerce. And
Mhm.
so I felt like the R just represented all those things. And it represents Rialto, Renaissance, everything. So that's why I was like, that was a perfect name for the album.
And you're from Rialto, and that's in California.
Yes, yeah. It's about about an hour away from LA.
Okay, and then so from what I know, right, you also have, as we all do, alter ego, such as myself. My real name isn't Wordsworth, of course. So you have another name, Nesquik, right? So that's the rap
Yes.
name that you're going by. Your Bandcamp page is actually the one that actually has the Zay on it, right? So
Right.
all right, so you have the Bandcamp page. So I was asking yesterday, I wanted to be respectful, of course, like, hey, which name do you want, me to present with? So you today we're using Isaiah on the screen, but you go by Nesquik as well. People know you from Nesquik. How did you get that name Nesquik?
When we formed up as a duo, a friend of mine, and we started recording, or we're about to begin to record, he was like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, what's your MC name?" And I was like, "MC name? I didn't even think about that." I was like, "Oh, I have no idea what I would go by." So mine would when I chose Nesquik, it was literally like a just like an intuition. Like I looked, and that's the name that stood out to me because I was in the kitchen when he asked me that, and I answered it kind of on the spot. And so I looked at it, and something about that name kind of registered to me, and that's what I told him my MC name was going to be. Later on, I started kind of making more sense of it, of like why I would go by Nesquik. And so I've stuck with it for so long, and I started making more sense of it. Even in this project, I start to kind of have some clarity on the name and ask myself, why do I go by it? And so on the second track, I believe, is where I kind of like talk about like, oh, I was a big fan of DJ Quick, big fan of that dude, and
Mm,
in some ways, I feel like Ness Quick is like another way of saying like Lil something. And I feel like Ness was a just kind of a symbolic of the next generation, maybe. Um, but that, and then I always felt like Nesquik was like a melting pot of sorts, where you kind of mix things that cultivate this new concoction. And I felt like I've absorbed a lot, just growing up, being born where I'm born, but also being a student of hip hop and stuff like that. So I felt like, okay, that works for what I feel, because I take a lot of inspiration from everybody.
yeah.
So
So who's
yeah,
some of the inspirations that you say DJ Quick, which I love too. Which album is that I love? Is it the Rhythmalism, something like
yeah,
that?
that was crazy. Yeah,
Ah, that's the
yeah,
first DJ Quick album I bought, and that album is classic. But yeah,
yeah, that
some of your
was
other
fantastic.
influences.
Yeah, influences um, early on. What was it? Uh, yeah, early on, I guess I would say it was Wu Tang early on. It's funny because my brother's the one who introduced me to Wu Tang, and he was showing me a track or something. And at the time, I guess his knowledge wasn't fully up on Wu Tang, so he was like, "Yeah, you know, Method Man, he's the leader," and he was like showing me, and I was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I didn't know what I was hearing, and later on, I myself became a big fan. Uh, ODB was kind of the one that I really liked, but I became a fan of all of them. And I thought their whole how they could bring a group like that together, I thought that was
Yeah,
powerful. So I was big on them. I love Nas. I love Nas's tone.
yeah,
He's a dope lyricist, of course, but the thing I loved about him was the tone that he was able to be so mature and have such an understanding. So that really translated out, and I felt like it was just relatable. I loved how he was so smart young. Um, and then I would say, who else was I a big fan of? I really liked, who else was it? Yeah, I'm trying to think of the name. I don't know why I'm going blank on the name right now. Oh, the Fugees. I like the Fugees a lot.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought the style was dope, and they just because I always felt like they had fun with it. There was a period of time where I liked Immortal Technique. I liked how he was
Mhm.
so technical with everything. So I was a big fan of him. I was a big fan of Master Ace. And yourself, I always heard your name, and I always like. I think I got a glimpse of like some of your music, but then once we did the episode, that's where I really got deep into your music, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy is dope." So
Thank you.
yeah, that so I was a late fan to you. Um, but yeah, those are some lyricists there.
So that kind of explains like your writing style. Like I was describing earlier when I heard it, it definitely sounds like my era, like coming up in my era with the integrity of
Yeah,
rhyming, also some references maybe to hip hop, maybe to what's
yeah.
going on. So a lot of those things when writing. How do you define your writing style?
My writing style, I would say, my writing style is smooth, but uh, at times, I guess it could get technical. There is some storytelling in there,
Mhm.
um, and I feel like smooth is a good because every time when I'm rapping, I notice I do this a lot, like a swirl, like there's a smoothness to it. And I do like to try to bring something different to the table, and not try to go with the average rhyme.
Yeah.
So there's a rhyme somewhere in there where I say where I rhyme something with what was it? I forgot the word for it, but it was high tech, and then uh, I forgot the word for it, but there was like some word sometimes where I'm like, dang, how did I make that rhyme? Because by the time you're building up the rhyme, it could blend, and sometimes I take pride in that I'm able to get there, get to that point. I always like to have kind of this aha moment when I'm writing. And so when I write, once I get that, I'm like, okay, yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there is a certain bar that I have to have or feel um, when I feel like okay, this is good here.
I think I got two things to talk about. One, I was gonna ask you, do you think the fact that your brother put you on the Wu Tang and you like the Fugees, it kind of started giving you some of that idea of, you know what, this group thing isn't a bad thing. And then you get the podcast and you look at all of y'all being these separate kind of
Oh dang,
MCs, right?
yeah,
And then you
yeah, I
go,
didn't even think of that.
I need to pull in, I need to become RZA on this. Let's pull the group together. So
Yeah.
sometimes, those experiences may subliminally we're taking part of in our actions.
Oh no,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, I feel like
okay.
I didn't even really think about that, but yeah, there's definitely the whole fact of me thinking, oh, the group thing would be better. Yeah, I've just because I've observed it subliminally. Yeah, for sure. I think for sure that definitely adds to that. Yeah,
And then
definitely.
I was thinking about when you said DJ Quick, and like I love DJ Quick. That also has a group aspect because DJ Quick albums were one of the first albums I think that really started to incorporate a lot of live musicians and bands.
Yeah, he had like
And it
the
was
bars on there. Yeah,
right, and it was known. It wasn't like hidden in the background. It was like that this is real instrumentation. So I was thinking about there's some of these things that we sometimes just activate just based on our upbringing. And then you mentioned you being smooth. What I recognized the other day with you freestyling in the car, I felt when you just said that, I said, I see that totally, man. You was rapping in the car the other day, and I thought that was dope.
thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, I try, when I do try it, when I try to rap or do that, I try to bring my A game. Like I feel like that's the only way you can do it. Like you have to the best that I can do, at least I gotta try to present that, So yeah,
Yeah. Even in
appreciate.
the car, you were moving with that. You wasn't just like staring in the camera, like just rapping. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
because you got to feel it. I feel like you have to feel what you're saying, and yeah, and I love doing it too. So it's a genuine passion, that's why I care about it so much.
and then so how are you writing today? Is it in your head, the phone, computer, pen, paper? What's the standards of how you um pin down the game?
Right now, it's on the phone, on the notepad right now. Um, I used to do it on paper, but I just felt like the phone kind of made sense. And so I do it right now on the phone, and I like to hear the beat. So once I hear the beat, starting fresh, I like to kind of feel out what the beat is, what it's saying to me, and if I could hear something, then I'll try to go off of that. And yeah, I like to write to the beat and really kind of tailor make it to that.
Yeah, and then what is it easier writing to your own beats or somebody else's? So sometimes, yeah, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
different inspiration. So and
I
then
feel
how
like
long
it's
does it take to write them too?
I feel like it's harder writing on my own. I feel like because when I make this beat, it's like a precious thing to me. It kind of sets a higher bar where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I produced this. Now I got to really kill this. And the expectation's harder because I feel like I made the beat versus when somebody else has me jump on a feature or something. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have fun with this, but I'm also going to give it. But I don't have this like, okay, this is something from me. And, so sometimes I do feel like if I make the beat, it's a little bit more harder. Um, Especially if I've been sitting on the beat for so long, because I'm like, okay, I've sat on it this long, I better be good.
Yeah.
so, uh, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like too, there's a certain level, like if a producer gives you something, you got to kill that. And so I still bring it, it's just a little different when I make the beat because it's more I care about this production a little bit more because I made it. It's special to me. But I don't know. I feel like either way, I end up killing it. So I just have faith that I'm gonna kill it either way. But yeah,
How long does it take you to write a verse, song, and then on the production side, how long does it take you to make a beat? So it's
um,
kind of three-part question.
so on the album I worked on, because like I was just telling you how it's like so special to me, I
Hmm.
I, I wouldn't rush the writing. So I'll take my time. There was a period of time where I was off for like 3 months. I was like, perfect. I'm gonna bang out two albums. And what ended up happening was that this particular beat this was like the first beat on the album. I was sitting on it for so long
Right.
that the pressure was even higher of like, okay, this got to be right. So I would really meditate on it. I would be playing Dynasty Warriors and to get myself in the mentality of a warrior spirit, because in that first beat I talk about treating hip hop like a samurai and treating it with respect and have some delicacy to it. So I really try to meditate on that and really convey the spirit of that. So on there, you'll hear me mention a reference like Lu Bu, who is from Dynasty Warriors. And he's a character in Dynasty Warriors you cannot approach because he is too tough. And so, yeah,
For
so I
those that
met.
don't know, Dynasty Warriors is like it's like a almost like a hack and slash game,
Yes,
kind of
yes. Yeah, it's like
open
you.
world.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like you versus 1,000 men or something, and you're just
yeah,
like,
it's very fun. If you like that hack and slash, and you just want to keep smashing and mashing the buttons.
yeah, yeah,
That's Dynasty Warriors, one of my favorite games on the PlayStation when it first came out as well. So I just wanted to give them some insight of why
yeah,
you have that warrior mentality and it's fighting against 1,000 people. So um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, so I'll meditate on that, but generally, like if I was recently on a feature with a good friend of mine, his name's Mac, the Mac Life, and he's really good at making music videos, and he's just on it as an artist. But he's a local artist from Rialto, and he was like, "Hey, man, I want you to jump on a beat with me. And I'm like, I'll never turn that down. I'm gonna always be like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So he sent me that, and that one took me about a week, you know. And he just said, just have fun with it, you know. And so that one took me about a week, and I would write it in between like lunch, maybe in the morning. I'll write a couple of bars.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I never really compromised the integrity of it. I just knew that I needed to get this done. So yeah.
And then making a beat, how long can that take you?
I feel like making a beat, maybe a few days.
Okay.
Um, when making it, I usually will just kind of like, you know, find the right beat that I like, the right drums, the right snare, and then usually, actually, I kind of start with like digging first, kind of digging maybe for a sample, and
Are you
then just
doing that? Are you digging like going to the store and getting the records, or now are we using digital like
online, digital. Yeah,
online, or are we? Or how about to throw this in there a little bit too? AI are you using that as well?
I like to use actually now TikTok. Like there'll be sometimes these people who will give you a sample on TikTok. And it's them playing their live instrument, or sometimes just even like hearing something. The sample could be the TikTok reel, and taking that and chopping that up. I think that's a new way of like finding a new type of sample. I don't know the legal ramifications of that, but you know, I feel like there's a lot of creative ways. I like the idea of like creating your own sample through AI and having AI create a sample for you and then chopping that up. I kind of
Mhm.
like the idea of that. And I got that idea from I think Metro Boomin did that with the BBL Drizzy thing. So I was like, where did they sample this from? This wasn't a real sample. And I found out that some guy on Twitter, I guess, had he'd been messing with AI to make some music. He made that sample, and then Metro Boomin took that and then did what Metro Boomin does, and that thing went out of here. But
Yeah.
I like the creativity to use AI in that way, where you can like just create something brand new with it or something. That to me is dope.
And then when you're performing, as far as in the booth, is it you have to get the verse straight through, or you don't mind getting punched in?
I won't mind getting punched in, but I do feel like I should be able to get it straight through. I
This is
should
a very, I don't know why. I mean, I thought about this question because, of course, I rap and come up in the studio. So we both know how this, we both know you could be in the studio and there's one
yeah,
person that's adamant about, nah, you got that straight through. You go,
yeah, yeah,
and then you got some people that's just like, yo, just punch him and we get up out of here, man. You know, nobody, you know, we've been around both probably, I
yeah,
think, right? So,
yeah, because you have to get it so perfect, especially if your verse is intricate, like, let's say yours, you know, and you know yourself, so you wanna know you wanna know that it's the right sound on every little part. Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm
But
curious for you, words usually go straight through, or how do you do it?
nah, I'll punch in on it depending on what it is, you know, like, and then if I need to do it 2 tracks, kind of slick Rick style, I'll do it that way too to make it easier.
Mm. So
Um,
sometimes
so I
I'll
just learned not to force it. You know, I learned not to try
yeah,
to do it that way because then sometimes you don't land right. Like the
yeah,
next line might come in a little rushed. So I'm like, I want things to kind of land right. But yeah, let me hear what you were saying.
that makes a lot of sense on that end, yeah, because 'cause you're right, when sometimes you do it all the way through, there might be one little part where, yeah, it doesn't quite land.
Yeah,
So
you
you
know.
kinda sacrifice a little bit with that. Sometimes I like to do it straight through multiple times, like, I'll do maybe 20 takes straight through.
Mm,
Obviously, the 20 take probably is not the best one, but somewhere in there, I know maybe it might be right. But I'm okay to punch in, you know,
and
like you
then
said.
are you dicing them up too? Are you because I've heard that too, that technique of I'll record 3 or 4, whatever, like you said, 20 maybe, right? And
Yeah.
then you're taking the 2 lines from this one, this line
Yeah,
from this.
sometimes, like, maybe once or twice, I might do that if it's just, like, feeling like we're getting nowhere, you know? Then
Yeah.
maybe, but it's usually, like, maybe 3, probably. If it's diced up more than that, I'm gonna probably feel like I need to do it again.
Yeah, I got over that as I got my own setup. when I used to be in the studio with certain people, then it felt like that was their kind of terms of how they felt. Like you go straight through and it's and then you realize if you do the punching properly, nobody even knows you punched in.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
true.
then, but back in the days, it was easier to tell if you punched in because you were dealing with a reel, right? Like the reel of
Right.
reel was the machine. So when you hit that button, the tapes have to wind up and catch you on time. So you could kind of sometimes hear some clipped. It was just
Mhm.
a lot more. Today, it's just digital. So you could do it, raise the levels. There's ways to fix stuff. So yeah, I just learned like my thing is about just getting it done. And then like I said, I'll try different ways though. I might do the verse with first four, like the song called Yearbook I did with Stu. That's two different tracks. So I do the
Mhm.
first four on one track, first four on that one. So what about like writing in the studio or at home? So which do you prefer? If somebody like you said you did the guest feature with your guy from out there, did you
Yeah.
write it home and then bring it to the studio, or did you write it in the studio? Or would you mind?
Yeah, it was kind of all over the place, like, some bars, were at home, some bars were on the living room table, some bars were straight out of the shower, some were on my way and this is the same verse, some were on my way going to work, some were at work during lunch. I kinda like that because when I hear the verse back, it makes me think of those little moments where I was like, "Ah, yeah," and I like to kinda think back on the journey of that verse and, like, where I was at the exact moment.
Mm,
There are some verses like that I can tell you exactly where I was at, where it hit me like, "Ah," and those are kinda cool moments. That we could kinda celebrate on our own, but,
yeah.
yes, I feel like in general, I'm kind of everywhere. I'm, like, a little bit here at the house, a little bit on the road, and a little bit during lunch. Sometimes like, we went to Stagecoach, my girlfriend and and, I took the ride in there, a little bit of inspiration there, and sometimes I might get some inspiration from her or my mom's. I'm like, "What do you think about this bar? Like, does this hit?" And she might be like, "Nah," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I felt that too, so let me rewrite that one." And, that's kinda usually how I chisel it down. I'm not afraid of asking for, like, people's feedback too.
Yeah.
If a friend's here or something, and he might have a line, I'm like, "Okay, yeah, man, I'm gonna take that. Thank you." So I'm not afraid of also kinda taking an idea, as long as I know, like, that, it's still inspiration I'm getting,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
chef it up your way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I might rephrase it, yeah, exactly my way, but he gave me the idea, and I kinda ran with it. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned this, man. I just had this discussion the other day. I think with Mr. Fluid, who was going to be his episode I did with him, and we were talking about like long gone the days of yo, I just wrote this verse on the phone, and you call your boy up and
Yeah,
yo, check it out. You know, I said, yo,
yeah,
I just wrote something. Check this out. Oh, that's hot. Yo, that verse dope. That verse dope, man. All right, what time you
yeah,
going to the studio? Like that now is just like
I know.
I'm just here. You just here. You write it. You ain't really calling nobody to really, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
those
I know,
days of
I
that.
kinda miss that, though. I kinda miss that.
Yeah, I think me and Punch may have done that recently, maybe about like a year or so ago. Like working on a song. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna start because we're writing a song together. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do these first four bars like this. All right, cool. You're gonna end like that. Then I'm gonna come in like this. So that type of stuff. But a lot of times now is man, I kind of miss that time, man.
Yeah,
And I realized like that's when I realized I kind of feel like we got older when we was like, yeah, I don't even call you no more to hear my rhymes. I just meet you there, you know.
just like yeah, you'll just hear it on the spot as I deliver.
Just dead on the spot. So I heard you saying like, you might ask your mom, your girl, like, how to sound. What's the atmosphere for you in the studio when you're recording? Do you want your friends there, or you just rather record by yourself?
I yeah, there are a few times where I kinda enjoy both a little bit. Like, I enjoy sometimes creating it on the spot. I feel like that there's something special about that. You're really kind of creating this time capsule.
Mm,
There's a project I haven't uploaded, but it's of me, Mark, and Andre, the 2 I was talking about, and I called him over one weekend. I'm like, man, let's just on the spot, let's just write something and put something. We haven't done one in a while, and we did a summer joint, and there was just something special about, okay, we're all right there pinning it from scratch. We're gonna
Yeah.
record it same day, and we had fun doing it. You know, it took us a couple of hours, but we had fun. Like, and we'll never forget that. It's a summer joint of ours, and so I like that atmosphere of like all three of us writing at the same time. But then there are times where I feel like, uh, you know, especially if you're going like a more of a technical kind of verse, for me to be able to kind of do it solo and yeah, try to knock it out. I usually try to like record in the morning time, so usually birds are barely
Okay.
chirping, you know, and my voice is kind of more I don't know, I guess just more tender during the mornings, I noticed. So I usually record during the morning times, and then I'll kind of just hit record button and just go. I right now recorded that whole album on the podcast mic that I have.
Yeah.
So I want to do one where I actually go to like a studio the next project I do, and go and do it, like have somebody else be able to hit the record or tell me like, oh, that ain't it, try this. And yeah, I'm not afraid of that. Like I welcome that creativity or that collab with somebody who could do that.
And then when you're picking a beat, are you looking for a specific sound? Because I'm listening to the album is all over like the place.
Mhm,
Like it's like here, this sound here,
mhm.
got different songs and different styles on there,
Yeah,
like I
The
think
Mambo one, I don't know if you heard that one. That one's
okay, no, I
really
got that on my list. That's on my
yeah,
list.
yeah.
My list is the Mambo, Never, I think Metalheads. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's the one with me, Andre, and Mark, yeah.
Um, and I have it. I got another one, but I had those, and I'm going to ask you about one of them too. So yeah, those are my joints from there
Yeah,
too. But there's a couple other ones. But I was listening, and I'm like, okay, this is different sound. The sounds are there's such a variation of sounds on there.
yeah,
So what made you choose? If you make two beats, which says this is the one that makes it, or somebody sends you a beat,
yeah.
this one I'm using.
I'm definitely a big fan of the boom bap era. I don't even like labeling it boom bap, but just I
I know
guess
what
for
you
the sake
mean.
of yeah,
Yeah.
in the sake of categorizing it, you know, because it's expanded so much now. You know, I love that era because it's to me, that's what gets me going when I hear the boom, like boom, mm, I feel like there's a lot of space to like da 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 kill that. So to me, it's inspiring. You know, it gets the spidey senses tingling. Like, okay, like you know, if you're a real spitter, the boom bap beat, you know, that's gonna be like always if you want to kill it. But then I also felt like, okay, well, I can't keep it all boom bap. I got to show that I'm also versatile. Like if I could do a trap beat, you know, and there's one
Oh
track on,
yeah, that's the joint, right? That's
yeah,
my
it's a
joint.
little different.
I love that you did that. And that when I was listening to it, I listened to the album last night. So I was listening to it and I was like, yeah, see, I love that you did this because coming up, I don't know your age, but coming up in that era of boom bap or just hip hop, a lot of times it was like frowned upon to do that style.
Yeah,
It was like if you weren't from a certain place, or it was almost like commercial people only do that style. And then it
yeah,
took time for people to say, yo, if you could do it, fire is fire, no matter what. So when I heard that, I was very pleasantly happy. I was pleasantly surprised and happy that you did that style. So what
yeah.
what made what made you fearless to do that style? Because remember, we coming from that
Right.
background of yo, nah, you're
Yeah,
gonna get some friends, you're gonna get some friends that ain't feeling that.
yeah. I don't know. I guess I was experimenting on the beats. That was kind of more a more recent beat, and I was just kind of experimenting. And once I hit that, there was like a little. Once I hit that, I was just like, this is kind of hot. All right, like, and I felt like I could rap to that, and I was like, okay, maybe this should make the project. This should because this will show a different like. No, I'm up to date too, you know, as well as you know, I'm traditional. I can update myself, and
Yeah.
I have some more in the canon here, and so uh, to me, and it also brought out another element of me, kind of like this hustler side of me, Um, and that's probably one thing that was kind of challenging at first because you're so used to hearing trap, on this type of beat, and I'm not trapping obviously. So I tried to kind of reinvent the wheel of that and try to like, okay, what's hustling to me?
Yeah.
What do I consider it being like, just a hustler. Maybe I'm not like dealing or nothing, but at the same time, I got a different type of hustle mentality. Getting up early in the morning, like starting to go at it at the AM, still
Yeah.
saying my prayers. Like there's a different way of doing it. And so to me, that track is was a really fun track, but it also an important one to show myself, okay, I can do this and I can do it my way, and still try to deliver that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that track a lot. I was happy to hear you flip that style, and it definitely showed a fearless mindset of just trying to make good music. That's basically it. And being from that era, and just not that era, but just being a musical person. How about the beats? Do drums and no drums? What's your preference for beats? Does it matter nowadays? Do you like that style?
I haven't done one with no drums yet, but Kendrick Lamar is kind of like there was a track he did that like got me thinking about that because I never really experimented on just doing a track with no drums. But I feel like it's fun because it kind of lets you, it creates more space where you could kind of do a little bit more even, kind of
Mhm.
like just like a, I don't know, I forgot the phrase you call it, but where you're kind of more like talking spoke poetry, but it just kind of leaves a little bit more room for that. So to me, I feel like I'd still choose the drum,
Yeah,
even though I like kind of that experimental element to it. I still the bread and butter is going to be the drums because I'm always waiting for that drum to kick in too or drop. When I hear the intro, I'm like, okay, when's the drum going to drop? Because that's when I'm going to be like over the top. So yeah,
yeah. I like a lot of Meek. I like Meek Mill. He has that. He's using that style heavy with like just rapping for a long time, and then the drum drops later. But yeah, I like either or. If the beat is fire, it's fire to me, pretty
yeah,
much.
true. Yeah,
What's your revision process? So you write the rhymes. Is it everything you? Well, I heard you say if they don't like a line, you'll be like scrap
yeah,
it.
yeah.
How often does that take place? And yeah, how often do you keep a majority of it?
I think mostly in the beginning. The beginning's like kind of where that takes place more so. Like I might do 4 bars or so, and if I'm not feeling it or I feel like I could have said that better, that's where that starts to kind of happen more, where I start to really refine it. So if you notice, like in the album, a lot of times I'm like I might rhyme like 6 or 7 times or 8 times right out the get because I really felt it. I really felt it. But the revision I think happens a lot at the beginning because I just feel like you have to come hard at the right at the
Yeah,
get. And so that's when that happens. But as I'm like 4 bars in, then it just might be like a word or two I might change. So the revision is kind of less. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to think if I had any examples throughout the album where the ones track Never, that one I had probably
yo,
I had six or
look,
seven
that's the
different
next thing I'm asking you about.
for reals. I had 6 or 7 different iterations of that track, and finally landed on something I felt like could come out.
Yeah, that's the next. Look at that. That was the next question because I was gonna delve into the storytelling aspect and then go right into asking you about Never. So obviously, that's a mutual thought that we know how fire that song is. So can you just kind of elaborate more on like creating that song and
Oh yeah,
like being
man,
kind
Tony
of
Bennett.
the vulnerability in it as well?
Yeah, Tony Bennett is the man, dude. And I remember first hearing that sample, or not sample, the song. And I thought it was such a beautiful track. It's a short song, but he
Mhm.
talks about that he'll never fall in love unless it's forever, basically, and that too often you have times of burnt out love that doesn't even make it to the next morning. And so he says that I'll never fall in love unless it's forever. And for me, I've always, I'm 38 now, but I've always had falling outs.
Yeah.
And for different reasons, one moving away or one because it was just too toxic. And so at a, like recently I've been feeling like, man, it's like I've been feeling like, I know where my love's at and I know that I'm going to be long lasting and whatever, so I know where I am, but like I just don't get it sometimes. And so it's like, how do I express that feeling without coming across like soft or,
Yeah.
that was the challenge to that. But man, I'm definitely in such a good place. Like, I'm with my girl. We just had a baby uh, on the 14th. And
Congratulations.
thank you, man. They're sleeping right here. And so like I'm at a very good place. But when I made that beat back in 2006, I had to take my mind back in 2006 and those feelings back in 2006. So that track is literally like me time traveling back to how I emotionally felt. And I had to kind of deliver it in that emotional way that I
Mm.
felt hurt. Because in that, when I made that beat, I was hurt. I was hurt. And kind of like a upset hurt, kind of like, man, how could you? And I'm like, that's kind of how I made the beat. So I had to kind of channel it that way, but with the maturity kind of understanding now, like I'm better off, like, and looking back and learning from those lessons of hurt and why did that happen. And so I talk about a few examples of the relationships. Verse 2, I go into an actual instance that I think kicked off the toxicity and the
Yeah.
back and forth of trying to get people upset. And that's where I really learned a lesson there that I would never cheat on somebody again. Even if I thought they cheated first, I never really got a confirmation of that, but still wasn't right what I did. And I learned the lesson there. So man, that track was hard though. I went through six, or like I said, 6 or 7 different iterations of it, and I would let my friend Mark hear it, and Mark would be like, "I don't know, man." so, so I would rewrite again, and yeah,
Was he
yeah,
saying, I don't know because of the content or the delivery? What we, because
the
I'm trying,
content, the
okay.
content for sure. Yeah, he thought maybe I was, pouring out a little too much,
Okay.
and I think the chorus kind of helped shift things.
Mhm.
Once I laid down the chorus, it kind of changed the tone a little bit too. It kind of helped improve the tone of the track. Um, yeah, because I kind of played with the chorus a couple of times too. So the chorus I think felt right, where it was more like, I should have known better, but the homie is always saying to never fall in love. But yeah, there was people. I had a person that wanted to buy that beat from me. I could have possibly sold that for $50, but I believed in it so much. I wanted to keep it because I knew there was a message I had to deliver there for myself
Yeah.
and also just to kind of express and get out.
And I think it worked out at the end of the day because me and you on here talking about it without knowing I was going to have that in the lineup.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
obviously, we both feel how powerful that song is. And you said the chorus, and is that something for you? Like, is chorus or verse first? How do you go about writing the song?
I feel like yeah, it's for sure verse first, just because that's where I know
Mm,
I got the most work to do in, and then uh, that's where I just kind of I love doing first, But I've learned through that's hip hop, that the chorus is very important. The hook is very important too. So
yeah.
I try to be mindful of that, and uh, yeah, I try to sit on that for a while to try to see if I could come up with a good hook, a good chorus, and that's a challenge that I'm still hope to improve on too, on getting better on that. Whether it's melodic or different things like that, I want to try to implement those tools.
And then what are you using to make beats today or record? What's like a setup that you use?
Yeah, right now I'm still a little I'm rusty because I'm using GarageBand right now, but I
Yeah.
know
I
that's not
use that in
really.
my class. I use
Oh
that in
yeah.
class with students. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know, like, for those who are might be like purists and be making it, they kind of, but to me, I'm just kind of experimenting. I'm experimenting with it. and I told my girlfriend that I want to get a beat machine though, kind of get back into actually doing it.
Yeah,
Before I was doing it.
Punch just got an MPC Live.
Okay, NPC Live. Yeah, so I might have to look into that because I want to get back into it and making them
And
again.
then nowadays the stems you can separate inside the machines now too.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy. That'd be
so
dope.
that's kind of crazy too. Now you can make the beat in there, gives you the stems and everything. So, yeah, Punch just got one. So he was like, man, I'm working on it. It takes time, and I'm like, for us, if we got something to keep us distracted, and it's our hobby and passion, rock out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dope, man. So throughout this recording process and making music and doing the podcast, and then kind of reading your bio and identifying like you being a curator, creator, all these things, what was it like as far as finding your purpose? Have you settled into like knowing what you are here for on the basis of hip hop at least?
I think so. Because at first I always did kind of ask that question about purpose because I believe that's very important to kind of help guide you as a North Star, you know.
Yeah.
And for a while, I mean, I went to school for IT, like
Oh,
totally
no.
different, yeah, totally different realm. But ultimately, I knew kind of that wasn't really where my passion was. If I were to do things again, if I were to redo things, I would have probably went to school for film. Not saying that I can't still. I might actually do that. Go to school for like film or some
Yeah.
media, basically media, and to really kind of sharpen because the things that I do, just I've been doing them since I was so young. You know, I made videos for church, and you know, I look back at it now and it all ties, but I didn't realize it then that I was doing these videos, these sort of kind of videos back then for church and stuff.
Yeah.
I've always kind of done it, and now that I see it, I'm like, oh, this is a natural thing that I like to do. Now I would have went to school for that. So I'm thinking about that still. I might actually pursue that. Um, Media, I feel like, is my passion. You know, to kind of help story tell through that medium. I feel
Yep.
like cool, especially for artists, because I feel like that's the thing that's lacking for artists. You know, especially now the independent artists. There's a lot more that are popping up, and they need sort of this media to help tell their story, and I feel like it's also a viable business too. Like you can really turn that into a real business. Podcasting, like I know people might laugh at it, but it could legit turn into a for real thing.
Oh yeah.
And also too, I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet legends like yourself. You know, Master Ace was. I saw the interview you did with him, and it was so dope. And the questions
Thanks.
you asked him were like different. Like you would never hear really from him. And you know, I try to think about what I could ask that might be different to like my perspective of him. And
Yeah.
you know, I opportunities like that would have never happened if I didn't take a leap of faith in doing something that I believed in. And so now I know the purpose is to keep building, don't stop, and to like keep keep my head focused on what we were talking about, the lyricism and bringing out the art within that, because there's a lot there. So, and if it's not, there's still a lot to, because we even talk about uh, uh Soldier Boy, you know, and his place kind of in all this,
Yeah.
and so there's still contextualizing there to be done, because it was still different and it still broke through in a different way, even though I
Yeah.
might have at the time considered that like purist hip hop. It still is hip hop the way he did it. So yeah, there's a lot that I'm learning still to this day with the podcast, with doing the album. It's all a big rebirth of creativity for sure. And that's why I feel like the album also kind of fits with all that.
Yeah. I teach the hip hop class. I teach hip hop origins at a university, and I bring up Soldier Boy. He's part of the history, So Can't leave him out of history. He made a huge impact to what we're doing today and us being on this mic, and a lot of like understanding, like, oh, you could do it that way. Like,
Yeah,
didn't even,
yeah.
made us go like, oh snap, I gotta switch gears on things. So what are three pieces of your work that people can say, that you would be like, yo, check that out. If you really want to hear me, like how we spoke about never, you could, that's one extra, but you could pick three other ones, if you want.
I will say the track "Return of the Mac" is definitely a track out of the album "The R" that I produced and wrote to. That track "Return of the Mac" was me finding a beat striking gold, and I was like, "Oh, this beat is nostalgic. It's boom bap. It encompasses." Uh, kind of everything. My story from like feeling like, the devil's always trying to get you down, but coming back up and knowing yourself and having the confidence. So Return of the Mac was one of those ones where I was just like, I got gold here. Yeah. Cause I was genuine. I was telling my story and walking the line, the ring of fire. And yeah. And I liked how I still kept it technical. So that track is definitely
Yeah.
a standout. Uh, the podcast that's another. I mean that right there I'm the most proud of because we're keeping it legit, and we're trying to do our best and telling why it's so important, why this album is important, and trying to uncover bars, so to me that's another big project to be proud of. And we're trying to do reels and stuff and break it down to just make it more engaging. And then another piece of work I've done. Um, I mean, if you're really out there, the podcast I did, the Deep End, that's another. I'm still proud of that project. It was never visualized; it was more audio,
Yeah.
but I put a lot of edit in that audio. So there's a lot of like, audio clips and different things I'm doing audibly, and I made my own like kind of outro and intro on the piano. So it's kind of cool if you're into like phenomenons like moon landing, 9/11, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Can you give them like social media? Let us know best place to find you, everywhere, how to check you
Yeah,
out, YouTube stuff and everything.
yeah. IG is the best place. That's going to be hip hop. That's where we're most like engaged with everybody. So IG is going to be the place. YouTube channel. You could do youtube.com // that's hip hop 909. That's where you'll grab the YouTube channel. And then we're also on TikTok too. That's hip hop, I believe, on TikTok. And then the album, Zay Music 909.bandcamp.com.
Yeah,
That's
I
where you
see a
can
whole
hear.
bunch of other instrumentals on there. You got a
Yeah.
couple other projects on there
Yeah,
too.
yeah, some old this was not supposed to meant to be for public, but I felt like I gotta put it with everything I've kind of like messed around with or done. So
Mhm.
yeah, feel free to
Dope,
check
man.
check any of those out though.
Well, yeah, y'all. Isaiah, thanks for coming on the show. Nesquik, if y'all don't know the other alias name, make sure y'all check out That's Hip Hop Podcast. That's what got me into podcasting. I'm sure once you check it
You
out,
were our first like legit guest too, like our first real guest. And you could tell like when that in that interview I had the nerves, but man, I appreciated you so much, man. You're our first real guest on there.
thanks, man. I was happy to be asked.
Yeah.
Like I'm always happy to be asked to share perspective. So I appreciate it for sure. So make sure y'all, subscribe, like, share, go check out their YouTube page, check out the Instagram. I mean, it's so in depth and in detail. So shout out to Isaiah, that's hiphop.com. And you
Keywords.
know, not that's hiphop.com, that's hip hop podcast. And everybody out there, like I always like to ask y'all, what are y'all words worth? Peace, y'all.
Peace, everybody.
Yo, thanks for waking up now early, y'all. Just so y'all know out there, man, he's on the West Coast, I'm on the East. 10 a.m. We doing this, but that's what we do to get it done. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime for sure.